Hey everyone watching this video. Short disclaimer before we get into the main video. I talk about some triggering stuff or kind of disturbing material that may not be suitable for everybody to watch. So I'm going to put the timestamp right here so that you know where it's going to be so that you can skip it if you don't want to watch that portion of the video. But that part should be the only thing where it's kind of tough to watch. I'm just describing a moment as one of the scenes in one of the movies that I'm talking about. So just to let you know before you watch the video. But yeah, let's get right into the video. After this video, this channel may or may not become a movie watching / movie review channel. So there's a lot of content to get into because I still have not seen Mean Girls or White Chicks. And apparently those are the two movies that have defined a lot of people's lives. So I may or may not be missing out on that. Hello, let's get into the video. This video is going to be a recap / review of all the films I watched in film studies class. Now, a little background. So currently I am, I think, a sophomore, getting ready to be a junior in college. And I took this film studies class from March of this year to May. So it was only an 8-week class. But it was a class that I learned a whole lot in, and film is definitely something that I can see myself venturing into the future. I really like watching movies and then watching different pieces of art and basically watching a whole bunch of stuff that I have not seen before. With each movie that I watched in this class, each movie covered a different aspect or idea to focus on. So, for example, some of the topics that I covered in this class was editing, color, sound effects and dialogue, musical score, thematic / fictional and dramatic elements, director style, visual design, cinematography, and special effects. Just some ideas I was covering in this class. Now, I watched a total of 10, I guess 9 and a half, but I'll get into that later, films altogether in this class. So, as a basis of this video, I'm going to talk about each movie that I watched and the elements that I studied in it. Maybe I'll touch on a little bit of the summarization of the movie, but I'll mainly be talking about things that I personally pointed out and I thought were interesting. Because some of these movies, man, I would have never watched them if it were not for this class. It's definitely given me a whole different perspective on the world of cinema and certain director styles and how different movies are made. Without further ado, let's talk about these movies. Alright, for the first one I watched was Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Lost Ark. Yes. This movie came out in 1981. I mainly covered this movie for the thematic / fictional and dramatic elements. There are definitely a lot, and if you've seen this movie, then you know how exaggerative and how exciting it can be. Well, how exciting it is, because it's a really exciting movie to watch. So the main characters in the film are Indiana Jones, of course, Marion, and Dr. Belloc, I think that's what his name is. Yeah, he's a villain. So basically the whole premise of this movie is that Indiana Jones is trying to find the lost Ark of the Covenant that is mentioned in the Bible. And the Nazi soldiers, because this movie took place in 1939 into the early 40s, so during World War II, around that time. So basically the Nazis are trying to find this Ark of the Covenant and then use it for unspeakable acts, or use it to win the war. And Indiana is trying to find it first and stop them from using it. It was really interesting because I've seen this movie before, but I watched it, I think I watched it back in March. Yeah. And it's just really, really different to watch a movie from a time before you were even born, and then having the perspective and the knowledge you have of the world now and on society. I found it very interesting how the female character is portrayed, Marion, and just how women are portrayed in the movie. It's just really hard for me to try and understand why men were so comfortable with treating women this way. I don't know, like sexism is still a thing even today. I don't know. I could tell, maybe it was talked about, but maybe not enough. But you could definitely see in this movie evidence of that. Well, for example, Marion, she's clearly an adult woman. She's managing a bar in Nepal all by herself, deals with men every single day as she's working on this job. She's being called a girl, isn't really respected, only sexualized, which is not necessary. What's even the point of her being... She's just a woman trying to help Indiana. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Outside of this class, I would still watch it again. I still really like it, apart from that part, but yeah. Okay. And the next movie I watched was La La Land. Now, La La Land is probably one of the favorite movies for me. Well, I really enjoyed this movie. I reviewed this movie on sound effects and dialogue and the musical score. So the main characters in this movie are Mia and Sebastian. The premise of this movie is that Mia is an actress, or a struggling actress in California, and she has big dreams and she wants to achieve them. And then she meets Sebastian, who kind of has the same dream, but it's more towards music. He wants to be in a band, travel the world, and they both kind of have this common interest, and then which develops into a romance. Actually, I don't mind the romance in this movie because it's like one of the main ideas behind this movie. So with sound effects and dialogue, so with this movie you can definitely tell. I've seen this movie so many times, but if you have not watched it, which I recommend, there is a topic that I learned that was completely new for me. It's this topic, or it's this technique called Mickey Mousing. It's a technique in movies where the editor slash person who composes the sound and then overlays it with the footage, and then they use the audio, they use the music to match what's going on in the scene. So it's basically, well, for example, in La La Land, there are several scenes where it shows Mia and Sebastian's timeline of their relationship, which goes from spring, summer, fall, and then winter. And the music becomes more up-tempo in the summer, becomes a little bit more slowed down, kind of like jazz-ish kind of sound in the fall because it's like slowed down, and then that's when they begin to focus more on their careers and not spend as much time with each other as they did in the summer and spring. The relationship comes to an end in December, or in the winter, around that time, without giving too much away. Now, what I think the favorite scene for me is when, at the end, I'm spoiling it for you, sorry. But at the end of the movie where Mia is incredibly acclaimed and very well-known actress, and she's with her husband, and they go to this nightclub, and it turns out it's Sebastian's nightclub. It looks very obvious or very clear to the audience and to me that they have not seen each other in so many years. And it's just such a beautifully shot scene where Sebastian is playing on the piano, the City of Stars song on the piano, and the camera zooms in onto Sebastian and the light dims down, and then the people talking in the background, it begins to fade away, and then his piano playing becomes the most prominent sound in the scene, and then it cuts to Mia sitting down, and then the light just centers down on her face and her body just looking at Sebastian. It just seems like it's the two of them in the nightclub. It's so... I adore that scene so much. It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie. You should watch it. I recommend it. Yeah. Okay, so that was La La Land. And the next movie I watched was Sin City. Now, this movie is considered a film noir, Noir. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that word, but this movie came out in 2005. It's entirely in black and white. And the reason I covered this movie was the topic of color. Color is used in very specific parts in this movie because most of it is in black and white, and there are only some parts where you can actually see a color that is not in black and white. For example, like red, yellow, blue. Those are the colors I can really think of right now. But each color represents a different clue to the movie. It's a very gruesome movie. It's so weird. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a rough looking movie. I will say that. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's a very interesting movie to watch. But it's also mad long. Like, it's 2 hours and 27 minutes. Like, nah. I'm getting off topic again. But basically this movie, it contains 3 separate characters, but they're all living in this city, but they all have their different paths and their different stories happening all at one time. So there's Hardigan, who is a police officer / ex-cop who is played by Bruce Willis. And then there is Marv, who is played by Mickey Rourke. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry. But yeah, he's another character that has his own story. And then there's also Dwight, who's played by Clive Owen. So basically, these are the 3 main characters that have their own separate stories in this movie. So there's a lot going on. Off of what I just said a couple moments ago. For example, as I mentioned red before, and yellow, it's the color of disgustingness. It's gross. The color yellow is used in scenes where it's gonna make you uncomfy. So there's one example where Dwight and his girlfriend are in this apartment together, and then like these whole bunch of random men can come in, and they're like trying to look for him and kill him. I forgot what this guy's name was, but anyway, so these men are coming trying to look for Dwight, and then one of the men, so it's basically Dwight's girlfriend and this head of this really bad group of men. So they're talking with each other, and it's just like basically he could kill her in like any second. That's kind of like the mood of that scene. And then he asks, "Can I use the bathroom while I'm waiting to beat up this man?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's over there." And so then he urinates, and you can see the yellow of his urine going to the toilet. And it turns out that Dwight is waiting for him in the shower. And then he like knocks him out, and then puts his head in the toilet where he just peed into. One of the most grossest things I've ever seen. I don't want to see that in real life either. That's gross. And he's like, you forgot to flush. I'm like, sir, you're nasty. But anyway, the color yellow is also used to describe, or is also used to represent this villain who is in Hardigan's story. Okay, just a little quick backstory. Hardigan is, in the beginning scene in his story, he's trying to save this little girl from and he ends up killing this person and saves the little girl, but then he gets thrown in jail because he's not supposed to kill anybody, and he's a police officer, so he gets ripped away his job, so he's in prison. And this little girl writes letters to him in prison, and he was saying like, oh, these letters are the only things that are keeping me alive in this cell just by himself. Like, literally, he does not have any contact with anybody else. He's just in this cell by himself for 18 years. Well, let me skip forward. So then he somehow exits his cell. He gets out of prison, and then he finds this girl, which her name is Nancy, and she's 18 years old at this point. And then he finds that she is a stripper, lady of the night in a nightclub, and apparently he like finds information that someone's trying to kill her, so then he tries to protect her. And then this gross, bubbly, lemon-headed man who is all in yellow, like his skin yellow. I will include a picture here. But yeah, it's gross. He nasty.
I am disgusted.
Actually, you know what? I have to say this one more detail about Sin City, because this had me internally screaming at how ridiculous this part was. Okay, so basically, since another part about Sin City, it is a adaptation of a comic book, so that's why it's all black and white. But yeah, in Marv's story, so he is trying to find this man, or this villain, who is abducting and killing women, and he's like, I'm not gonna stand by this, I'm gonna take you out. So then he finds this ranch, or this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and Marv is like this big, muscular man. And so then he finds one of I think Marv is also a cop, and then he also tracks down his partner, who is also a woman, who is portrayed, Lucille is played by Carla Gugino. So she is in this cell, and I think she has her hands cut off, I don't know, but she has one of her body parts that are taken off. I think it might be her leg. It's either her leg or her hands, or her arm. I'm not entirely sure, but one of her body parts is totally taken off. And so then he tries to rescue her, but then she's like, it's too risky. You have to get all the police over here to try and track down this person. And I'm like, while I'm watching this part, I'm like, how? Who is able to do this incredibly evil act? Who is able to do that? And just like kidnap all these women? Like, huh? And you know what? It's this person. By the name of Kevin. When I saw this person, bruh, it is the most wildest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this person, like this character before. So Kevin is portrayed by Elijah Wood. His character design is so strange. Like, it's just like a regular person, but his ability, he has sharp nails, he has sharp claws, he has glasses, Harry Potter glasses. I think he has like a sweater with like a design on it or something. And this boy is jumping all on this man, Marv, I mean. And he is just roughing him up, cutting him, scratching him. Like, he has the upper advantage on Marv. And I'm like, how is this the villain? Like, he literally looks like a 12-year-old boy. Literally. And he is getting the upper hand on Marv. Like, he's roughing him up. He's beating him up. And the next, bro, I will include a picture because it is the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. I can't. Yeah, I really want to dedicate like the next 5 minutes to talking about this, but I'm gonna move on. Yeah, okay, before I get any more off topic, that was Sin City, and the next movie I watched was Philadelphia. This movie came out in 1993. It stars Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. So Tom Hanks plays Andrew Beckett, and Denzel Washington plays Joe Miller. So Joe is Andy's lawyer. This movie revolves around, I guess, sexual orientation discrimination. His name is Andrew, Andy for short. He gets fired from his job for being gay because he gets AIDS, but does not tell his bosses about it. And he's really high up in his job, and he's very well respected by all of his authorities at his job, and he works at a lawyer's firm. But his lawyers decided to be, you know what? We're gonna fire you because you missed this one paper and you did not file it correctly, so we're gonna fire you on this cause. Not because you're gay, because they knew if they fired him for being gay, then they would be disqualified. So they decided to fire him on this tiny, really unnecessary and insignificant detail that gets him fired from his job. So, I reviewed this movie for editing. In this movie, there are a lot of extra close-up shots. Almost so close where it makes you uncomfortable. It's just really zoomed in on the person's face. Oh, I'm just now realizing I'm talking more about the movie than I did about this. I can't talk about. I'm getting like so off topic. I'm sorry. But yeah, Tom Hanks won a Academy Award in 1994 for this film. It's a really good movie. I really suggest for you to watch it. It really brings up a lot of pressing issues that were not really that people weren't not ready to have that conversation about the LGBT community, and then HIV and AIDS. It was very interesting to see Joe's personal beliefs on that, because he does not agree with homosexuality. He does not like homosexuality, but here he is representing his client who is a homosexual, who was a gay man. And there's one scene in it where Joe is in a drugstore, and then this college student is teasing him, commenting on him being a man, his masculinity, and he's like, gets really defensive because of his fragile masculinity, and he's like, why are you saying all this stuff to me? And he feels really uncomfortable. He feels threatened almost. But this other college student, I don't know if he was gay or if he was just trying to rough him up, trying to like get a reaction out of him. I don't really like how that was never resolved at the end of the movie. Like, we don't know if Joe changed his point of view / perspective on homosexuals after he represented Andy. We don't know. But yeah, anyway, Andy dies from AIDS at the end of the movie. You know what? You know what's really funny? I was watching this movie in April, and that's right when the coronavirus came to be. Ciao. Let me include this Snapchat pic that I took while watching this movie. It's funny. It's crazy funny. I think that's funny. Yeah. That was Philadelphia. So the next movie I watched was Erin Brockovich. This movie came out in the year 2000, so 20 years ago. Just like me. This movie came out in March, so not technically. I was not born by then. I was so chillin'. Oh, what are you talking about? Huh? Never mind. Erin Brockovich, this is based on a true story. I reviewed this movie on, let's see, what did I do? Oh yeah, Film and Society. This movie specifically focuses on the social issue of large companies / businesses benefiting or using common citizens at whatever expense. That's how I can summarize this movie. So basically, Erin, who is portrayed by Julia Roberts, she is a mom, a single mother at that, with 3 children. She got 3 children up in her house. Don't say children, goodbye. Yeah. So she is trying to find a job, not just any job. She's trying to work at a lawyer's firm. And she finds this case about all these people in this town who have so many medical issues. They have medical issues galore. They got so many, and it's because company PG&E. This is actually based on a true story. So if you want to look that up, it's all real. This movie is based on a true story. Yeah. So basically, this PG&E has been dumping all of their toxic chemicals into this water bank where all these people get their water from, and that's how they're getting all this cancer, a whole bunch of medical issues. And so Julia's like, Erin, she's like, I don't think that's right. I'm gonna sue you guys, and I'm gonna get a whole case against you. Yeah, so basically to summarize it, she files this huge lawsuit against PG&E, gathers all this evidence, gathers all these stories from all these people, and then sues them, and then each of the families get money from the company, which is a beautiful thing, justice being served. Yes. Oh, another thing. She won the Best Actress in a Leading Role in 2001 for this movie, which I personally think is rightfully awarded. Her acting in that was very good. But yeah, so that was Erin Brockovich. Yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty good film. So the next movie I watched was Rosemary's Baby. Bro, I'm about to scream at you for this movie. Guys, I had the genius idea just now. You know what? I'm going to make a part 2 to this video because I have realized that these videos are way too long, and I've been putting all the footage in just one long video. And you know what? I'm not going to do it with this video. I'm not going to overwork myself to try and get this video done because I have at least 4 more movies left to go over. And this video is already long enough as it is. So I am going to upload this whenever you might see this. I'm going to upload it, and part 2 will be up in a couple days or next week. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to end the video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video then. Bye.